Hi, hello, and welcome back for another video. In today's video, I'm going to give the summarized version of my eating disorder story, how I got to be a personal trainer, an overall view of gaining, losing weight, and how that looked like for me. So stay tuned to see what I do now. So let's just get into it. My name is Alina and I am a certified personal trainer that uses YouTube, Instagram, and now TikTok to help beginners with their fitness journeys. I have tons of workout videos on different trends and supplements and all the things, and I'm really happy that you're joining me for this video. And before I forget, please show your love by liking and subscribing to support my channel and keep coming back for more content every week. So to start, I have always been an overweight kid. So growing up, I was never the thin one. I was never like the smaller kid. I was always like on the heavier side is I think the nicer way to say it. And it was just kind of my identity for a long time. I remember just it always being a topic of conversation too, especially with my parents, like, oh, have you tried getting Alina to play sports? Have you tried putting her on this diet? Have you tried taking these foods out of her diet, etc.? And it was just such a common topic of conversation that I thought it was completely normal for everybody to constantly talk about someone else's weight or someone else's appearance. And I remember just constantly thinking about it. So when I was growing up, I would always think about, oh, well, I'm like the fat kid, so I can't do this. Or I'm the fat kid, so gym class is gonna be like this. And I just kind of wrote off a lot of experiences or a lot of things. Like I wrote off being in sports because my doctor recommended to my parents that maybe if you put Alina in a sport, she'll, burn some extra calories, run around and lose some weight. And that was completely against my nature as a bookworm or as someone who just kind of like enjoyed more passive activities like reading or writing or literally anything that was not a sport. I tried karate, ice skating, gymnastics, basketball. I think I tried soccer once. I don't think I ever made it to tennis, but I know that was like on the table for a certain point. Swimming too, and just all of them, it was just the same story. I was put into it and I looked at it as a chore. I looked at it as like punishment for being overweight, and I just never enjoyed them. I also am not like a super coordinated person or super athletic naturally, so I didn't excel at any of these sports. And maybe a combination of that and like my defeatist mentality kind of just like set me up for failure. But in every single sport that I tried and that I failed at, I just left feeling even more discouraged. Like, there's just something inherently wrong with me that I can't like catch or throw or kick or hit or whatever it was that sport required. And it was very difficult because a lot of kids my age, I think, were just naturally, smaller or thinner. And I just stood out very easily because I grew into I'm not that tall, I'm like 5'3.5", but I grew into that height very early on by like middle school. And everyone else was just still kind of like catching up to that. And everyone was just naturally thinner. And I guess my metabolism, plus the fact that I thought like fudge strip cookies were the best thing ever, and I wasn't particularly careful with my diet, it just kind of like fed into itself, literally. And it was very discouraging. And I noticed that specifically, like I dealt with it both in terms of being in a school with a diverse, not super diverse, but diverse enough community of kids, where it was like a thing where like in gym class, I saw everyone who rolled their eyes when they had to be my partner on my team. I obviously noticed when I was picked last for a team or anything like that. And I think it was worse though amongst like outside of school, amongst like family and amongst family friends, and it just constantly being on the tip of everyone's tongue at every function. Getting tons of unsolicited advice about something that you're already constantly worried about makes it worse. So basically it was tough, and I hated myself for a long time for essentially being what I considered fat. And this continued and continued. And I think at some point I just kind of got sick of it and was like, okay, fine, like I'm done playing sports. I'm done failing at all of these activities and feeling like a loser. Let me try something else. So we had a treadmill at my house and I decided I'm just gonna walk. I'm literally going to walk all of this weight off until it kills me. So I never studied like a great deal. I kind of went through middle school without putting in a ton of effort. So at like the age of 13, I decided after school every day I was just literally going to walk on the treadmill until like I couldn't walk anymore. I lasted sometimes in 30 minutes, sometimes an hour, depending on the day. I just kept doing it. And eventually, as I kind of lost some weight, and for context, I was basically at my full height at that point, like 5'3.5". And I was around 150-ish pounds, and that's a lot, like that age, especially because I had no muscle. Right now, at the same height, I'm like between 130 and 135 pounds or so, for context. Once I like lost like that first 10 pounds, so it did work. I was able to like get into running and jogging, and that was like an activity that I could handle doing because it wasn't about winning, it wasn't about a team, it was just like me. I remember when I was like starting to like look like I was losing weight, the feedback or the reactions that I got were just like addictive. Everyone was just like, oh my gosh, you're finally losing weight. I'm so happy for you. What are you doing? How are you doing it? I'm just like, this is the most impressive thing ever. Like no other accomplishment of mine to date has gotten as much like attention or recognition as like losing weight in that period of my life. Maybe it was because I was younger and I kind of just like took it in my own hands at that point, because my parents did everything they could to help, but at a certain point there's only so much they can do, because as a 13-year-old, the last thing you want to do is listen to your parents tell you what the right thing to do is. There was that as a factor. One thing that I also started doing was just eating less. So I started portion controlling, but a little bit more extremely. Some meals I would just have like a cup of rice and that was it. And I didn't understand nutrition at the time. I was too young. I didn't understand like protein and carbs and fats and like how all of them are important and you need a balance and all of those things. So I just ate things, and I would take the amount that I wanted, split it in half, and just eat that amount. And as someone who's like in their more formative years, like 13, you're not like fully grown, your brain is still developing, all of that. Like, it was miserable. I was hungry and tired and all of these things. But I was also addicted to the results because I was losing weight pretty quickly, which makes sense because I was doing a lot more activity all at once and eating half the amount that I was eating before. And I was just getting all of these like positive reactions as to like, this is the best thing you could ever do for yourself, which basically was like, okay, so if I'm miserable but at least losing weight, that's okay. And that was what I lived with. I attribute the fact that I work out now to my parents, because they didn't know what to do with me, so they finally figured out that maybe a personal trainer is the way to go for her because sports are not working. And so the personal trainer, I had like two, and I quit one and then went to the other, and I learned the basics of weight training. I started learning like, oh, so this exercise you should feel here, and this is the muscle it works, and like putting like little dots together. And I became addicted to it because I saw better results from it than just walking or running or jogging. And this was around high school. So this was after like 2 years of just doing cardio. I finally started doing like things requiring other muscles in my body, and I loved it. I loved going to the gym because I felt like this was finally an activity that I understood that I could do. I could see myself getting stronger. I could see myself benefiting from it, and I didn't have to rely on like a team or a point system or a game to feel validated. The feedback and the opinions constantly kept coming, like continuously. No one seemed to forget like the first 13 to 14 years of my life where I was overweight. No one forgot. Every time I was reminded. I met a relative after 2 years, they'd be like, remember when you were fat? Oh, I'm so glad that's over. Or, I can't believe that you lost all that weight. How, like, are you okay? No one asked me if I was okay, but it was more like the topic of conversation was always, I cannot believe you lost this much weight. I am so proud of you. Nothing else, like nothing else about my life was of interest. Like the fact that I was interested in music was not of interest. The fact that I loved reading, no one cared about. The fact that I wanted to learn about my culture and like spoke Urdu, no one cared about. Everything was just, Alina lost weight, let's talk to her about losing weight. And I see now in retrospect that really messed with me, because I started valuing myself based on the fact that I had lost weight, and like the only accomplishment of mine that was worth noting was the fact that I was thinner. And so that made me work out more, obviously, because I was like, if I gain any weight back, or if I don't keep this up, the compliments are going to stop. The feedback is going to stop. They're going to go from, oh my God, I can't believe you lost the weight, to, oh my gosh, I can't believe you gained the weight again. Why? And I was so terrified of that it fed my addiction, to the point I was not going to the gym sometimes because I wanted to, but because I felt like I had to go And I think that discipline in working out is important, where like there are some days you should work out even if you don't particularly feel like it. But this was a step beyond that. I was going to the gym all throughout high school so that I could keep people from saying anything about me, because I felt like I was never considered the attractive person. I was just kind of like, oh, she's the bookworm, oh, she's not really known for anything else. Started losing weight and getting compliments for the first time. It was like, I can't, like some people may find me attractive now. And that is addictive. It like fuels you, because if that's like the first time that you feel that way, you don't want it to stop. And I have that type of personality, and I understand that now, where like if I find something like interesting that I like finally get, like I kind of understand it, then I like have to go to the extreme so that I don't lose it, because I'm just constantly afraid of like regressing. That's not a healthy mentality. I don't think that that's great. However, that's what happened, and I was just researching all the time. So in high school, and I studied, I did all my work, like I passed all my classes and all of that, but whenever I had a free moment, I was looking up the newest diet. I was looking up the newest workout routine. I was looking up what is the best way to burn 500 calories in an hour. And the good part about this was I learned a lot. Like at a young age, I learned so much about exercise and fitness and just like what does what and why you do this and all of that. However, I used it kind of for evil, where I was experimenting on myself, and maybe instead of like experimenting with like one workout a week, I was like, if I just extend all of my workouts by 20 minutes and add on this additional type of exercise or this additional type of regime, why not? And so I started doing that, and I was in the gym like 2 hours minimum, like every day after school. I'd either be driven or drive to the gym, and no one was really monitoring me at this point, because everyone was like, oh, she lost weight, so she probably has it figured out. Like they gave me too much credit now that I think about it, and I wish someone may have been looking out a little bit more, but I was also very anal about it. So when people would comment, hey, maybe you should, take a rest day, or maybe you should kind of tone down a little bit, I got angry, I got defensive, and I was like, no, I know what I'm doing. You haven't researched this like I have. This is my territory. Get the hell out. I noticed I was losing more weight. I was like running, I was weight training, I was eating nothing, and I was training almost like an athlete, and I was eating next to nothing. I would measure my food so meticulously every single night. I prepared every meal on my own from like the age of 16, because I was afraid that if someone else cooked my food, I wouldn't know how many calories were in it, so I wouldn't be able to track it. Eventually, I started high school at around 130-ish pounds, and I graduated from high school at around 100, and my lowest weight was 103. So imagine me right now minus 30 pounds. And dude, it was scary. I was constantly cold. My hair stopped growing. My skin was awful. It was dry, and like there was acne everywhere. And I was just irritable all the time. I would start crying in restaurants when I would get food and I didn't know if it was cooked in oil or not, because I wouldn't know how to track the food, like how to count calories in it. And I would just start bawling, and then everyone was just getting kind of fed up with it. I think at some point there was like an intervention of sorts where it's like, you need to like stop, because my entire life revolved around it. There was this one time I remember I went to dinner with like classmates at a restaurant, and I looked up the restaurant ahead of time, which is a habit of mine, and I still do that to this day, and I think that's fine. And to like understand like what choices are good for you and what choices are not, I highly recommend that now. However, I don't recommend the extreme, which was for me, like I didn't trust anything on the menus. I brought Tupperware with me of salad and all of like the individual ingredients for the salad like measured out, and I came to the restaurant like 10-15 minutes early, like before everyone else, and I went to the server and I just lied. I was just like, I have thousands of allergies, I can only eat the stuff in this box when I order. Please just give me what's in this box on a plate. No one noticed, no one cared, and I literally said, keep the Tupperware. I don't want the Tupperware back, because I didn't want anyone to like figure out what I had done. And I did that because I was afraid that I would just start freaking out in the restaurant again. And it was tough, and my entire high school career is defined by this in my head. Like when I remember high school, that's what I remember, because I also remember everyone just constantly saying, oh, you've lost weight, like, oh, you've lost weight, oh, that looks so good on you, oh, you've lost weight. If that's all you're hearing is like, oh, you've lost weight, then you just want to keep losing weight because you're afraid people will stop saying that to you. Because when we tell someone, oh, you've lost weight, we're saying that in a positive way. We're like, we're proud of you because you lost weight. I wish there was like a better way to say that, to be honest, because I wish there was a way of saying, I'm proud of you for sticking to your routine, or I'm proud of you for exercising, or I'm proud of you for being healthier. Like something that's like better to maintain than just losing weight, because you can't lose weight forever. You shouldn't just constantly be losing weight. I finally saw a nutritionist, and I turned to veganism at this time, like in 2013, right before starting college. The nutritionist that I saw, who I adore, recommended that I incorporate more plant-based foods and consider going vegan for some time, because they thought mentally if I was eating plant-based and told myself it was healthier, I'd be willing to eat more. Because I was like, oh, you're eating more fruits and more vegetables and like rice and beans and lentils. Because you already know the foods are healthier, you'll want to eat more of them, and that way your appetite will increase. That's true. What ended up happening was, at some point or another, like a month into being vegan, I was eating only like a very specific amount of calories a day. I was eating like 1,700 calories a day all throughout high school, and that was not enough. I needed minimum like 2,800 to 3,000 for the amount of activity that I was doing, because high school I was walking everywhere, climbing flights of stairs. I had an hour, like not an hour, but 30 minutes of gym class every day. I was working out 2 hours a day. So I was like young, so you need more calories than anyway, so I was not eating enough. My body was just like used to starvation. It was like, I'm only going to get this much, and suddenly I was eating more out of nowhere. And once my body understood that there was more food available, it craved more. So I started craving eating like 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day, and just wanting to constantly eat, because my body was like, please give me food, it's been years. In a very short amount of time, I just kept eating. I like kept eating until I was like so full it hurt, because I had just deprived myself of food so much. So in college, I started out at like very, very thin, like my thinnest. And then I got to beginning of sophomore year, in like 1 year's time, I gained like 60 pounds. So I got to like 160 pounds or something like that. And I didn't work out that much. I like started working out less because I was embarrassed to go to the gym, because I was like, I was overweight again, and I felt disgusting and I felt ugly, and I just kept hiding. I would avoid social gatherings. I avoided seeing friends, and it was awful, because I didn't want them to see how much I could eat, and I wore baggy clothes all the time. It was a rough time. And I don't know how I passed any classes at any point during my life, to be perfectly honest, because I was just not present at all, because this took over everything. And so again, obviously I got tons of comments like, what happened? Like, what the hell happened? Like, we've been telling you you've been losing weight for like 7 years, and like now you've gained weight. What? Again, obviously those hurt, which is another reason why I just avoided people. My family was obviously confused, but they were also like, she's eating again, so maybe we just let her be. And a lot of it was just like, let's just, like, I think I just noticed like a lot of people were like, let's see what happens. Like, maybe she'll figure it out. For workouts, I just walked, because I was also just like so disheartened by everything that I was like, I don't know what else to do. In retrospect, I shouldn't have just quit working out, like going to the gym to do weights. I should have like had like a balance, like withdrawal, or like worked out maybe less, but I quit cold turkey after gaining like the first 10 or 15 pounds, because I was just too embarrassed, which sucked, because the gym is my happy place, and I was just miserable that entire year. And I remember whenever I would eat, like, you know, like how in college you're like, oh, that, like, you comment with your friends like, oh, that person's cute, or like, oh, that person's attractive, or whatever. Every time like I was with friends, and we would think that, in my head I would go, it doesn't matter, Alina, because you're gaining weight, or you're fat, so like you're not applicable, like you're not a candidate for dating anyone who's like relatively attractive, because they're out of your league. Sophomore year comes around, and I think after like a year of like eating until I'm ridiculously full, my body was like, okay, we trust her, let's like regulate her hunger cues and stuff, because essentially my hunger hormones were out of whack for my freshman year, because I was finally eating again after like starving for so long, so they were like super heightened and everything. And then like as like I started eating, they kind of like relaxed a little bit, and I started like having like more normal appetite, where instead of craving 5,000 calories a day, I craved like 2,500 or something, whatever it was. And I started losing weight in sophomore year. At that point, it was like 120, 125 because I didn't have any muscle left. I started working out again and trying to gain that muscle back in sophomore year. And so I ended sophomore year at around like 125 to 130. So like a much better place, obviously. I started like feeling better about myself. I started getting the compliments again. But at that point, I think I was I was mentally a lot better. I wasn't like healed or anything. Like I'm much better now than like 5.5 years ago. So my worth was still determined by how I looked, where like I planned studying around working out instead of planning working out around studying, because I was afraid that I would gain weight again and all of that. And it's still a struggle for me today. Disclaimer, like that's a spoiler, like it's still like kind of a struggle, but it's just like continuously getting better. But I just remember that like a never ending constant in all of this was just the feedback. And it was just like gaining weight and losing weight and exercising and eating well are not the hard part. Like I don't know how else to describe it, but that's easy. That's child's play in comparison to listening to what other people have to say about you losing weight or about you gaining weight or about you working out or about you eating well. Like, oh, you didn't go to the gym today? Why? But don't you work out every day? Why are you eating that? Is that part of your diet? Did you gain weight? How did you lose all that weight so quickly? Why did you gain that weight so quickly? That also like affected me during all of college for sure. It continuously got better. And after college, I noticed like I was in a much more balanced place and like I'd finally healed, you can say, my metabolism, where I could eat the number of calories I was craving without just like automatically gaining weight. And I stuck to like being between 125 and 135 since then. Now I fluctuate, I think, between 130 and 135 because I'm a little older. I have more muscle now, and I think those are the main reasons. The story doesn't have like a very linear model. I think part of it is also that the gaining and the losing weight and the like comments from everyone affected me in ways outside of just like working out and exercise and eating and diet and whatever. It affected my self-esteem and confidence to a point where even like today it's still a problem for me, because everything I do is kind of related to that, where like people know me for working out, or people know me because I'm a personal trainer, or people know that I love fitness. And I signed up for it, and I'm grateful for the opportunities that it's giving me and that I get to help people. It's just hard when that's kind of your life, because every pound you gain or lose is now like a question. And it ties into your feeling of self-worth, because there are days, and I wish this wasn't true, but there are days even now where I'm like, the only thing you have going for you is you lost the weight again. Like that's it, that's all you got. And if you gain weight, that's it. You don't have anything else to be proud of. Like the fact that I graduated college early with a double major, nah. The fact that I went to law school and graduated in 2 years despite not really wanting to do law, nah. I don't think about any of my accomplishments because I'm constantly thinking about maintaining this one of like just maintaining a healthy-ish weight and like exercising consistently, because if I don't, people will notice. And I don't want to get into this in this video, but I'm Pakistani American, for those that don't know. I think in South Asia, the obsession with weight is also like unparalleled. Everything just revolves around appearance sometimes, it feels like, to me. That might not be the case for you. And so I don't want to overly generalize, but like my experience of it is like in a lot of South Asian circles, I have noticed that the conversation about weight can be very, very negative and very toxic, to the point where we're commenting on people we don't even know and just saying, oh, that person should lose weight. Oh, that person should consider doing squats. That person should lean out their arms. And we're so opinionated on like other people's weight and their fitness. And I'm just like, most of us aren't that healthy. We're really not doing that well in the health and fitness space. I know very few people that are like in my personal circles that are like invested in their health and fitness to a point that's not toxic. To be fair, I've noticed it getting better over time, but we have a lot of work to do. And I think that also played into a lot of it. I don't think this is a universal truth by any means, but for me, it has been like something that I have consistently noticed, is that for girls especially, looking good throughout your youth, basically until you're married, is just kind of like you just have to do it, because if you don't, then you are jeopardizing your future and you won't get married, and then you'll be alone and you'll die. That's a dramatic interpretation. However, I've noticed that it is very difficult for girls. Like, I get more comments than a lot of my male peers who may have lost or gained weight. Anyway, I mean, there's a happy ending, I guess. I'm a certified personal trainer now. I make workout videos and help people with their fitness and their weight loss and their health, and in a balanced way. I am still vegetarian. I started eating eggs, so I'm no longer vegan. I still stay away from dairy because I just don't like it. I work out 5-ish times a week, and I maintain my weight relatively easily, and I'm a lot stronger now than I was before, so that's really good. And just generally, I think things are looking up, but I did want to share that story because it plays a lot into why I do what I do, and I think that's important for people on this channel to know, so I wanted to share that. If you made it this far into the video, that's it for this video. I can't talk about this anymore, so thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. As always, please like and subscribe. It really helps to support me and my mission to just spread the word on fitness and taking care of yourself and all the things in like a healthy way. So thank you so much. I appreciate you, and thank you for being a part of this family. You can follow me on Instagram and on TikTok now for more consistent content if you want to. But yeah, until next time, bye.